Across the Philippines, campaign season is in full swing as the nation prepares to vote in its 15th president. The May 10 election brings hope to many Filipinos seeking change and economic growth after nearly a decade of the Arroyo administration. But it's also a time of backdoor dealings and heightened violence as the country struggles with poverty and insurgency. I'm Fauzia Ibrahim. On this edition of 101 East, we ask, who will lead the Philippines for the next 6 years? As election fever heats up, leading candidates have launched a charm offensive to pull in the votes. But beyond the personalities and campaign promises, many critics say the real issues will remain unchanged. Chantal Cho reports.
Everybody loves a winner. In the Philippines, they don't come much bigger than Manny Pacquiao, a welterweight boxing champion and the first boxer to win 7 world titles in 7 weight divisions. But on May 10, he faces a different fight for a congressional seat in southern Mindanao in the Philippines' national and local elections.
What I want is, to change the style of politics in the Philippines, because right now everybody knows that politics is too dirty and there's a lot of politicians corrupt. So some politicians, they're gonna kill people, they're gonna kill their opponent just to sit the office and just to win.
But outside the boxing ring, even a fighter of Manny Pacquiao's pedigree will struggle against the long tradition of political violence in the Philippines.
Election violence, generally speaking, has always been generated by this intense rivalry for elective positions and political power, especially between competing family clans or political dynasties.
That's why internal security is of great concern. In recent months, at least 80 people have been killed in election-related violence. And more than 2,000 people have been arrested for carrying firearms, despite a ban on them since January 10.
It is cause for big concern for us because this is a very volatile period, especially in Mindanao. It's a matter of life and death for many people there.
How do you deal with people themselves, the culture of the people who believe that everybody must have firearms? How do you solve that? I think it's not, the military cannot solve it alone.
The southern Mindanao island is a hotbed for politically motivated violence. In its Maguindanao province, brothers Montasir and Abdul Wahab Sabal are running for mayor and vice mayor in the Talitay township. On the night of April 14, they survived a grenade attack in their family-owned resort during a campaign meeting. But 2 others died, 12 were wounded. All of them relatives or supporters of the brothers.
Una kong nakita yung tumutuyok po yung granada.
After the grenade struck the door, I saw it roll on the floor and stop right in front of one of the men who died. I was near him when it exploded. I couldn't do anything. All of us hit the ground. It just blew up. I managed to run off to ask for help. We were hurt. I begged people to come and help us.
Right after the grenade was lobbed into the compounds, eyewitnesses saw one man running away from the back gate here. With rumors of another attack in the days leading up to the elections, campaign supporters have erected a net above the walls here as a precaution. The Sabal brothers suspect the attack was politically motivated.
It came from our opponents, from the politics. The political violence is common, especially those royal blood. They cannot accept that somebody will hold their position.
But long-time feuds between local families complicate investigations of such attacks.
These are all not election related. These are sometimes cultural related, historical related, or societal problem, which is really existing in the area.
The attack on the Sabal brothers is just the tip of the iceberg. Barely half an hour's drive away is the location of a chilling mass murder. November 23rd, 2009, the Ampatuan massacre. A convoy of vehicles on their way to file for candidacy in a mayoral election. It would challenge the political stranglehold of the powerful Ampatuan clan in the region. All 57 people were ambushed and gunned down, 30 of them journalists. Police arrested some 200 suspects on charges of multiple murder, among them more than 10 members from the Ampatuan family.
There's still a prevailing culture of impunity when it comes to killings. There's always an advantage for politically powerful people. There is hardly any conviction, and especially election-related offense.
As Gloria Arroyo, when she ran for election for the presidency in 2004, she had to rely on the votes to be delivered by many of the political dynasties. For this reason, there was some kind of a tolerance on the use by the local politicians of the members of the armed forces for their own private political agenda.
The military lost credibility due to its alleged connections with local politicians. Following the Ampatuan massacre, its top brass in Maguindanao saw a reshuffle, and Lieutenant Colonel Benjamin Howe took over the 6th Infantry Division.
There was a previous situation here wherein we were told to organize these civilian groups and give them firearms. It is the local government who requested to organize these groups to protect their locality. And right now we are telling them, these are not authorized. Try to go out and we'll tell you, we'll catch you, we'll get your firearms and we'll charge you in court. But again, there are still some private arms who are now hiding and we're trying to get them.
Joseph Estrada.
Some 18,000 electoral positions are up for grabs on May 10. But all eyes are on the two leading presidential candidates to see who can bring real change. Much of their campaign has been personality-driven rather than issue-based. The Liberal Party's Noynoy Aquino is the son of former President Cory Aquino. His father Benigno, a senator, was assassinated in 1983.
I accept the people's clamor. I also accept what my parents have always reminded me of. I accept the responsibility to continue the fight for our people.
Trailing him in the ratings is Manny Villa. His Nacionalista party is pulling out the stops to attract votes. The senator is a self-proclaimed rags-to-riches businessman. His successful pursuit of champion boxer Manny Pacquiao to run under his banner has boosted his popularity.
I want to be, remember me that I'm not only a champion in boxing, but also champion in services. Basic needs for its family, livelihood program for education, and healthcare medical assistance.
In a country where political stakes can be a matter of life and death, it's a timely reminder of where the real issues lie.
Joining us now is Berhel Santos, a veteran journalist and political commentator. Also, Florencio Butch Abad, General Campaign Manager for Senator Noynoy Aquino.
Thank you.
And Prospero Poypoy de Vera, Advisor to Senator Manny Villa.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for being with us today. Verhel, if I could start with you, after 9 years of the Arroyo administration, what is the electorate looking for in a new president?
This electorate is voting on hope, faith, and charity. And it seems to me that the immediate practical issue of the election is the president herself and her scandal-ridden 9-year regime. And I don't think the electorate would be looking for anything else. It is an end to this regime and the beginning of reform.
But surely they must be looking for something new and that a new president can offer.
No, I would imagine that they'd be settling for the end simply of this regime.
They're just looking
and the
for
beginning
change.
Of another.
They're just looking for change. Is
so.
That it? Popoy, candidate Villa is a successful businessman. But what does he bring to the presidency if he wins?
Well, he brings a very good track record, not only in business, but also in the political sphere. He has been elected Speaker of the House of Representatives and President of the Senate. So to be able to get to that position, you should have political skills to be able to get voted into office by your colleagues. So he has a rare combination of having very good management skills and very good political skills, which I think is necessary in this country.
Well, Butch, now you're representing Nonoy Aquino. Let me then ask you, one criticism that's been leveled against him is that in the 11 or so years he's been a lawmaker, he hasn't really made much of an impact. People have said that he's riding on the coattails of his parents' legacy. Is this true?
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a great heritage, having two parents who are seen to be national heroes.
Yeah, but surely, though, good governance does not come from heritage, does it?
Well,
good governance does not come in the genes.
You have to remember the issue here is trustworthiness of a leader. You have to remember that people are hungry for decency, integrity, transparency, and accountability in political leaders in governance. And I think that's what Nonoy Aquino brings into this race, is the image that, and in fact, it's proven by the recent survey. He has the highest trust rating among all those running for president, because in the 6 years that he was the son of the president, 9 years that he was a legislator, and 3 years that he was a senator, he has always been right at the forefront of holding this government accountable for the unprecedented level of impunity by which it has abused its powers.
We're going to have to pause the discussion there for now. When we come back, we'll have more on the Philippines presidential election. Stay with 101 East. Welcome back to 101 East. This week we come to you from the capital of the Philippines, Manila, as the nation prepares for its presidential elections. The two main leading candidates are Senators Manny Villa and Nonoy Aquino. Well, Verhel, let me then ask you, we've just heard from the two camps of the two leading candidates. What do you think of the two candidates?
They're very different characters, for one thing. One certainly has legacy driving him, and the other has capitalist success going for him. But to me, the issue is, as Butch said, trust. Because right now what we have is a president with the lowest trust rating in all the history of this country. It's minus 53%, I think. Now, but the presidency begins after the election. That is when the real test begins. Now, what will be the first actions of this president? To me, the first question should be asked. The first question to be asked should be, what do you intend to do with this president and her cohorts after the elections?
Will a new president change this system that is so entrenched? A system that is based on patronage, a system that is based on money. Is this something that Manny Villa would be interested in?
Oh yeah, I think the bottom line for us in the Villar camp is that the country is in such a mess
that you've got to have a very good president who will take over, a president who is prepared for the presidency, and somebody who can move this country forward on day one.
Sure, that's, again, that is campaign speak, but let's get to the bottom of it. What will Manny Villa do to improve the image of the Philippines, especially when it comes to corruption?
Oh, he already has said that he was going to prosecute all corrupt officials in the Arroyo administration. He has gone after Joc Volante. He was the one who had Joc Volante arrested in the Senate, so he will be forced to tell the truth in the Senate. He has a track record of going after corruption in government. He was the one who investigated the wetting scandals of the first gentleman.
And yet, corruption still exists in the Philippines political system.
Yes.
Let me then ask you, what will Aquino do to crack down effectively
two things that
on
are very
corruption?
critical. One, try to restore the trust of the people in government. Well, if you have a president who is trustworthy, that's the beginning of it, and he's ranking #1 in that area. Number two, I think you have to start dealing with the problem of poverty, because the poor people see a direct relation between corruption and poverty, and even the business community sees corruption as one of the disincentives to people coming here to put their money and invest here.
Now, the first thing that a new president will have to do is sort out the judiciary, because the judiciary, justice, is what this nation aches for. And the judiciary is the arm of government that will have to be let out there to deal with the sins of the past. Until you are able to sort out the judiciary, no justice will be delivered to anyone. And this is not easy to do, given the extent of subversion that has happened in that branch of the government.
And that's why Senator Aquino has already proposed setting up a special commission to deal specifically with all the abuses of this government, because it has reached a level where you need to pay a special attention to them, so that the people see that there is seriousness in his words in saying that we have to make sure that those big fishes who have corrupted this country are put in jail.
The first task of the next president is to really make the people believe that government actually works. We're in such a bad state that even the delivery of very basic services in this country are politicized. That's why we are saying that you need a president who can run this country from day one. And no on-the-job training, no giving false hopes. That is where we are starting from.
Let me just quote to you something. Manny Villa once said and he was referring to wealthy families, really can't get used to the idea that even a poor man could also become president. Now, he has built his campaign on his so-called humble beginnings. How important is it, if he wins, to break the political dynasty that we've seen, the cycle of political dynasty that we've seen in the Philippines? What difference would it make?
Well, for one thing, he does not come from a political dynasty. So he would be able to have the guts and the capacity to do it. His father, his parents, his grandparents were not politicians. He's the first in the family to enter politics. So he does not carry a linear or a baggage, a political baggage into office. That is very important, because all the other candidates for president all come from political families.
Well, to talk about political dynasty, the son of Manny Villar is running for Congress, and the wife is in Congress, and he's running for the president. I don't know what you call that.
Perhaps that's a new dynasty that we're about to see.
I have to say, Noynoy Aquino, for a long time, had the chance to run for office, but he refused because his mother was in office for 6 years. And if you look at the Aquino family, it's been really a life of sacrifice. In fact, Noynoy Aquino never planned to run for president. In fact, his is the second presidential draft that we ever had. It was the people who said, you have to continue the legacy of your parents. And that is the reason why he decided to run for president.
Noynoy Aquino is his mother's son. His mother herself was reluctant. But to me, Manny Villar was relatively poor. He's incredibly wealthy now. Now, Noynoy Aquino was a reluctant president. Possibly the test of administration is yet to come. But to me, it is not looking for him. It's looking at the people. What are the people looking for?
Well, let's look at what the people are looking for. We've discussed corruption, we've discussed poverty. Let's look at what's happening in the South as well. Policies that from both candidates don't seem to be touching on the troubled South, where there is an insurgency, an Islamic insurgency, there's a communist insurgency as well. Let me start with you, Butch. What will the Aquino camp do for the South to try to resolve the insurgency in that area?
Well, there are basically three themes in the framework by which Senator Aquino is going to address the Mindanao peace and development agenda. The first one is security and peace. You know, I think Noyni is very determined to stamp out lawlessness in the South, but at the same time, to jumpstart the peace process, which has been derailed under this administration.
The issue is how presidents before him, if he does win the candidacy, the presidents before him have all tried and failed. What will he do different?
Well, you know, there were some presidents who tried and to a certain extent succeeded, but this administration, for lack of any credibility, has miserably failed in this process. In fact, pushing an agreement that would have, you know, created even more problems. So I think sincerity here, the perception that the leader is sincere and is willing really to push a peace and development agenda is very important to jumpstart the peace process in this country.
How will Manny Villa address the trouble in the South?
Well, he will be coming in with a clean slate. I think the problem in the South is really because you have a president who was never serious about the peace process from day one, and who did everything with a political agenda to just politically survive at the expense of the peace talks in the South. Manny Villa comes in with a fresh mandate to negotiate. And when you start the peace process, not only in the South, but also with the left, the goodwill that comes in. Remember, the senatorial slate of Manny Villar includes people from the left and the right. So he comes in with a mandate of being able to bring in different factions and different forces together. That is an advantage that he brings on the table when he becomes president.
Veeral, given the favorites, the current favorites for the presidency, no matter who wins, what do you think will be the biggest challenge for the new president?
Well, the biggest challenge is restoring trust. Both of them are right. The idea is to restore trust to this nation. And to me, to be able to do that is to make an example of certain people. You will have to chase certain people to jail. You will have to show sincerity and boldness. And you will have to proceed from there. Everything else will be secondary to that. Everything else. Example. This is what the nation is looking for. An example that will restore the people's trust in Philippine politics and government.
And we're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid. We've just run out of time. That's all the time we have for this edition of 101 East. From the team here in Manila, the Philippines, thanks for watching.